In this video, we are going to go a bit away from 3D modeling, texturing, sculpting, stuff like that. And we are going to actually go into video editing in Blender. So Blender is pretty flexible with stuff that it can do. It does not do anything crazy in the video editing. It's kind of basic, but it gives you some options if you ever want to edit video in Blender quickly. It can give you that option basically. So normally, by default, you'll just have geometry node scripting and then just plus next to it. So the video editing you have to add manually, where you'll have to go to video editing and then in here. So you can see in here that we don't have all of these options opened. So video editing is one of them. You're going to have to go click in here. So I already did that, and I also just added one video in here. So you can click Shift A and then click on the movie to add a video or image sequence if you want to add image or group of images, and then you have the sound in here. So when you add your video, it's gonna look something like this, and basically what's happening in here is that you have two tracks. You have your video track and then your sound track, and your video track has some options for it, your soundtrack has some options on it. So keep in mind that they're kind of separate, but they kind of go with each other when you are selected. So you have to select them and then move them with each other. Now what I'm going to do also is just click add image sequence. I'm just going to add an image just to show you how it looks like. You also have these things that you might want, which is on which frame this starts and ends when you put it in your video editor. If you want it to be on channel 1 or channel 5 or something like that, you can also change the start frame. For me right now, this is all good, so I can just add it. And we can easily just click on the edges and scale it up and down if you want to change it. Now we can see that our image is invisible even if we added it, and that's because we have higher channels to be in front and then lower channels to be below. Another thing that we can do here is, if you have our image selected, it is kind of hard to move it in here, but that is because you would not move it in the viewport, you would move it in its transform. So to the right, you can see all the details for each of the objects. So I can change the position, if I want scale, stuff like that. I can even crop it. So I can just cut out parts from the left, from the right. We also have video, which we don't have for this one. We can change color, saturation, something like that. But we also don't have to change this in here directly. We have our time, start, duration, end. We don't need to change any of that here. We have these helpful buttons at the end, and sources from where it actually came from. So that's kind of the details in there. You can also right click on any of your tracks and do stuff like this. So I can add modifiers, and here is probably where you would change the settings. And also whenever you select the object, you have at the right some tabs, so we can go to modifiers, and here we can see our hue correct that we can actually change. So right now I can start moving things around and try to kind of decrease saturation on different parts of the image. I think I'm gonna have to do hue also. Let's see. It does not seem to be changing in here. I think I need to... Oh, I need to mask whatever is behind. Okay. So this is kind of correction mask, correction hue. This is not actually normal hue. So we can click in here plus, and we have color balance. And in here we can actually change colors and stuff like that. So depending on what you want, you have some options here. There is not too many modifiers, but there is basic ones. So brightness, contrast, hue, mask, stuff like that. These all ones you can actually select in here. Okay, so let's close them up. For the video, you basically have the same things, but for the audio, you won't have some modifiers. You have some different things that you have on all the rest one, which is fade. So I can fade in. If I want, we can see there is... let's go back in here. We can see there is some fade for the audio, and we can also do the same thing in here. I can fade in and out, so it kind of slowly fades in, slowly fades out, and it actually shows you what's happening in here, where it actually automatically keyframes for you opacity that goes up and down. So that's another useful thing. Now also what you can do is we can see here that we have kind of limited number of channels. So it might be hard if you have too much things that you want to combine. So one thing that we can do is select all of them, quickly right click, and then make meta strip, which is basically just combination of our three tracks into one, and now it is way more usable. And this does not remove customization of those tracks. You can at any point click right click, unmeta the strip, which is permanently not make them connected, or just toggle meta strip. And this means I can now move things around, edit them, and then right click on any of them and then toggle meta, and they will automatically connect as they were before. So this is pretty useful. You can use it for a bunch of stuff. And you can also change the general scale or length of the clips and stuff like that in the meta strip. So let's toggle meta. So we want to kind of have everything separate again. Another thing, if you select this, what we can do is we can set color tags, basically depending on what tag we want to have on each object to kind of differentiate it easier later. You can also copy paste stuff. I would usually use shortcuts for this. I wouldn't do it in here basically, but you can just Shift D and insert it. You can also insert gaps. If you want anywhere the gap to be visible, you can do that. We have the fade that we already saw. We can just in and out it, or we can do from current frame. And we can also just clear it up if at any point you want to just remove all the fades. Now one thing that you have to pay attention to is if you have this track selected and right click on some other track, it's still gonna do whatever it is on this track. So right click is not localized to wherever you clicked right click. It is actually whatever you have currently selected. So that is one thing to keep in mind when working with videos and stuff like this. You also have a image where you can clear or apply scales. So maybe in here you want to apply scale to fills, so it kind of fills the whole screen. This is a quick way to just set stuff up to work exactly how you want it to be. So we can also stretch it, stuff like that. Strips. We already saw some of this where you can make the meta tip toggle strip. And we have add, and in here we went through just few of the things, but you can also add text, colors, or even effects. So if I want on, let's say, the image, I can do maybe blur, and in this way I can just increase the blur, and now we can see how our image is blurry. And it kind of takes the channel, but it kind of connects it to this blurriness, adds it to the image basically. Then in the add we also have text. If you want to add text at any point, we can see it in here. Of course you can use the transform for all the details, and then you can use your own fonts. This is really nice to use when you want to add your custom font. There is a bunch of free fonts that you can download and use, and basically you can open it up in here and just change stuff like size and make it work basically for a project. Let's see, we have crop in here. That's not that important. I think the most important thing is color, size, font, and you can also add things like shadows to give it a nice shadow if you ever need that too. And keep in mind, all of these things, at any point you can right click and insert keyframes and keyframe it. And if you remember what we did before, we can also maybe show it in here. We go to dope sheet, we disable this. So we can insert keyframe, and you can see that the parent is the scene. And then we can change the location, rotation, and at any point, maybe like a bit later, change the location and insert keyframes. And we can see the text animated. So always keep in mind that the animation is kind of global for all of the things. So how you would animate variables in the shader, how you would animate just object in general, everything will be in the dope sheet. And if you disable this, you can actually see all the things that are animated, and you can also customize them. So I can just easily move this around and make it work however I want. So yeah, that's kind of the basics for how video editing works in Blender.